Hi everyone, I'm Jo from Elsie Grays and welcome to part 2 of how to make an Etui sewing box. In this episode, I'm going to demonstrate how to construct the base, sides and gussets of your box. So after part 1, we should now have a fully constructed lid. Here I have a few examples of the current boxes I am making, and now we can move on to the next stage. Okay, so the next stage of our box is covering the outer base and the outer sides, sewing those together and constructing the base of it. So the next stage is to cover our outer base and our outer sides, and then we're going to sew them together, which you will then create this. Now, if you're wanting to fussy cut fabric, I suggest you make a template just out of 10 plastic so you can lay that over your fabric. Now, when you're cutting these, if you're fussy cutting, remember you'll need to cut your fabric a little bit further down because the lid is going to cover part of it. So you don't want, say, like your bird to be way up here and we chop his head off with the lid. Okay, so for my outer base, I'm just going to draw around the template. And then we're going to cut about an inch away from there. Sometimes it's just a bit easier to cut it with scissors than using the rotary cutter. And again, if you're wanting to fussy cut, not that you'll worry too much because this is going to sit right at the bottom of your box. So you can either use a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, and we're just going to cut a good inch all the way around. Okay. So we're just going to get our little pot of glue and your paintbrush. Now, try not to glue right to that very edge. Reason for that is, it's a bit like when we're doing English paper piecing. When the glue dries really hard, you won't be able to sew your base to your sides because the glue will be so hard. So we just want to come away from that. Now we don't want to pull it super tight because we want to be able to get a needle through there. And just again like we did last time. So remember, not too close to that edge. And if you've got excess glue like that, just with a paper towel, you can just dab that off. But we still want it fairly taut because we don't want this all baggy on the back. And you don't need heaps and heaps of glue here. It's just that fabric's quite fine, so it'll stick fairly quickly. And remember, we want to keep those corners nice and tight, but remembering a little bit of a gap there. And always sort of swap sides or do opposite sides. Okay, last two. Just tuck those little corners in. Just we don't want them flaring out too much. And see how that's not pulled super tight. but it's still nice and flat on the other side. And then I'm just going to pop a couple of pegs on the corners. If you've got any little bits sort of sticking out, just pop a little bit of glue under there, just to keep those edges down. And we'll just pop some pegs on. And we'll leave that to dry, and then we'll do the sides, the outer sides. And we'll pop that. Okay, so we're going to start on the outer sides. Now I just want to show you, if you can pan in on here, the outer sides are longer this way. Now, if it makes it easier to put an arrow, meaning this is your top, I put that on each of the ones, because if you're covering your outer sides and you turn it this way, it's not going to fit your box. So I always put the little arrows on the top there, just so we know that's the top of the sides. So once you've cut out your 6 pieces, we're now going to glue your fabric to the cardboard. And we're just going to start on the sides first. Remembering we don't want to put too much glue down this bottom end, because that's the bit that's going to be sewed onto the base of the box. Can't get enough glue today. So we just do all the sides, and then we'll come back and do the top and the bottom. So again, if you were going to fussy cut your fabric, I would use just make a little template, which is roughly the size of your cardboard. With this fabric, it doesn't need to be fussy cut. So I'm just going to lay my pieces out, and I'm just going to draw around them. So you want about 1 inch around each one. You can get 2. This is a 25 centimetre piece, so I can just draw around those. And then we'll cut out 6 pieces. Okay, so we've covered the 2 sides here. So now we're just going to cover the bottom. Now we're going to leave the top open, and later on when we go to put our inner sides in and the gussets, this will then come over then. So I just want you to leave the tops open like that. And we're just going to, I just trim a little bit of this fabric away just to get the bulk out of it. So just cut that one layer there, not all the way through, we're just going to envelope that a little bit, and we'll glue that down. So always on the outer sides you leave the top open, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue there too. Now remember, not too much glue on that bottom, and I just sort of envelope it over, fold it over, and then fold it up, and then pop a couple of pegs on to hold it. The good thing is the glue sort of grabs it straight away, so you can sort of put a little bit of pressure on it to get it down. Remember, not too tight here, because we're going to try and get a needle through there. So we're just going to pop a couple of pegs on, and we're going to do that to all of the 6 sides. Okay, once you've glued all 6 sides, I always just lay mine out and have a look to see how it's looking. So we're now going to sew each of these 6 sides to the base. Okay, so right sides together, and remember, if you're fussy cutting, that you don't get them mixed up or put them up the wrong way. So I use a little clip, You can use a bulldog clip or any type of little clip there. And we're just going to like we do when we're doing English paper piecing. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is not the best fun. So I'm just picking up, just see through there, I'm just picking up the fabric. I can feel the cardboard sort of under my needle, but I'm not going through the cardboard. Okay, and we're just going to keep doing that little over sew stitch all the way along. I like to use quite a long needle, but it really doesn't matter as long as you can get your needle through that fabric. And see how that's quite easy to get the needle through because I haven't pulled that fabric all the way over. Now I just want to show you, see there's a couple of these that sort of look a little bit baggy. Don't be too concerned about that because when we go a bit further along we will be pulling those over nice and taut. So don't be too worried about that. So we're just going to keep sewing until we get to the end. Okay, so I'm just up to the end of the first side, just sewing that final one on there. Okay, so I'll just flip it over and see how that's sitting nice and flat. You will see some of your stitches, but look, you won't see it when the box is sitting up. You're not going to be too concerned about that. Okay, so that's one side on, and then we just sew the next one on. I always just start with that little clip there. Once I get going, I take the clip out. So you're just going to sew all 6 sides on until they look like this. And I'm just going to flip that over. And we are ready to put the gussets in. Okay, so now we're up to making the gussets. The gussets are the little bits on the side that when you drop your box open, these are the gussets here. So they're what holds the box together. So when you pull your little toggle up, they will sit nicely in there like that. Okay. So to make your gussets, in your instructions you will have a gusset template. Now what I do is I always make a Templastic template and I just use that to draw that on there because you'll use that quite a few times. So you don't want to ruin your pattern one, just make a Templastic template. Okay, so choose which fabric you'd like to make your gusset out of, and I just lay my template on there and I draw around and then we're going to cut these out. So remember you're making 6 because it's obviously a hexagon, 6 sides. Okay, so once you cut out your 6 gussets, it should be looking like that. Now we're just going to give it a bit of an iron. Then we're going to fold it in half and press. And then fold in half again. Oops, sorry. Fold in half again. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to run a little stitch right along the edge there, about 1/8 of an inch away from the folded line. Okay, so on each of the gussets, see how I've sewn about 1/8 of an inch all the way down there. We're now going to sew our split rings on, which is what the cord goes through here. See I've just put a little ring on there, and the cord will feed all the way through. So these are just little split rings that will be in your kit, and we're just going to sew those right on the very edge there. Just sew them on like that. And we will do that to all 6 of your gussets. And this is a really nice, easy way of putting you'll be able to put the cord through. Oh, gosh, I got tangled up. And they sit out like that, so it'll be nice and easy for the cord to go through. Okay, so once all 6 gussets are all sewn together and you've got your little split rings in, we're going to start gluing these on. So they are going to be glued on like this. So we're going to skip that one, go over to here. Skip this one. And go over to there. Okay. So the next step is, see how your gussets have got quite a point on there? I tend to just give those just a little bit of a trim up, just so you've got a bit of a flatter edge. So when you go to glue this on, you don't have this point sticking up here and giving more bulk there when you don't need it. Okay, so we'll just start with this one. And remember, we've got the tops here, they've been left open. And we're just going to lay that on there. Just making sure that you're not over the card here. You're just, that little point is right at that top there. Now, see how you've got double layer? You're just going to have to pop a little bit of glue in there as well, just to keep that all down. And then we'll do the same on this side. So we'll just trim that little edge off, just to get that sort of point away. Just glue those down. So what I'm aiming for is this pleat here is going to sit right in the middle. Just lift that up. It sits right in the middle, in between those two there. Then you know you've got it in the right position. So when it pulls up inside, it's going to sit nicely. Just glue that down. And then I'll do the other 2, and then we'll come back. Okay, so once you've glued your gussets on your 3 sides, we're just now going to glue these pieces over. So again, I'm just going to take out a little bit of that bulk. Just like that. And always pop a little bit of glue under there first, just to glue those bits down. Okay, and then we'll start gluing. Now just be careful, you don't want to glue too far out. So I'm just going to fold that over. Now just be careful you don't get too much glue on your fingers and then touch the other pieces of fabric. So we want to make sure that we're pulling, I'm just going to turn that round, that we're pulling this piece here nice and taut. Remember I said it looked a little bit baggy, but we had to have a little bit of room in there to help sew it together. So we just want that nice and taut there, and I'm just going to pop some pegs on there. Now you may need to sort of glue a little bit more if you've got a little bit of bulk in there. And then I'm just going to turn it back around, just at the camera. And if you feel like you need some pegs along there, I'd pop some along there as well. Now remember, don't leave your pegs in overnight, because you'll come back the next day and your pegs will be glued to your work and you won't be able to get them off, because this PVA glue dries like concrete. So we're just going to do that on this one and this one. That completes part 2 of making our Etui box. In part 3, I will take you through the final steps of putting the box together, making the pockets, the little straps, the inner sides and the inner base, and putting your whole box together ready for completion. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel. I look forward to bringing you part 3 very soon.